Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are having a great day so far. So today we're going to be doing my updated top 5 favorite foundations for 2021. These are just it for me. They are my most loved, most reliable, tried and true foundations. Some of these have been with me for a while. They have really solidified themselves, and we've got some upcoming hot newcomers to the top drawer as well, let me tell you. So before we get into my top 5, let me tell you a bit about my skin type and my preferences when it comes to foundation, so you can understand why I've made the choices that I have. So I'm 37 years old. I do have signs of aging, like wrinkles, fine lines and texture, particularly like crepiness around my mouth area, the muzzle zone as we like to call it here. I also have some rosacea, some redness that, depending on what the weather's doing and what I'm doing, can get better or worse. And I also have some melasma that mainly shows on my cheekbones and the center of my forehead, but can also be on my chin, around my nose. And that again gets much worse during summer, regardless of whatever I try to do to fight it and keep the sun off my face. It still gets worse in the summer than the winter and is harder to cover during the summer months. I hate saying that I have a normal skin type, because guess what? Everybody's skin is normal. Everybody's skin, every type of skin is normal. So having a normal skin type doesn't sound like it should be a thing, but it is the best, easiest way for me to let you know what my skin does and how it behaves, so that you can understand how foundations might perform on my skin versus your skin. I don't produce a lot of oil. I sometimes get a little shiny on my nose in the summer under certain circumstances, but certainly not oily skin in general. And I have absolutely zero dryness. I never have dry skin. I never have dry patches. I don't suffer from sensitivities to fragrance or ingredients at all. I've never had a reaction that I can even remember to an ingredient or a product whatsoever. I also don't have acne prone skin or anything like that. So the best way for me to describe my skin to you is normal. It's just not, it doesn't fit into any of the other categories. It is just boring. Let's call it boring. My skin is boring. Got nothing special about it. And my preferences when it comes to foundations are that I like a medium to full coverage, something that can even out all of my redness and my discoloration and my melasma and things like that, but still look skin-like and I can still see skin through it. I love luminosity. I love radiant, glowy, luminous foundations. And I like foundations that look and feel lightweight and natural on the skin. As I have an olive undertone to my skin, shade range and shades and undertones are also really important to me, because no matter how great a foundation is, if it's completely off as far as the best shade that there is for you, then it's going to affect how you feel about a foundation. So the 5 that I'm going to talk to you about today all kind of fit into these kind of preferences and work amazingly with my skin without aging me, without exaggerating lines and texture, without letting me down halfway through the day, and without causing me any issues as far as getting all over myself and my children. I'm a working mum, so I do need my foundations to stay on my face. So hopefully that gives you some insight into how I make my decisions and how I make my choices when it comes to the foundations that I love and really enjoy the most. So let's start off with one of these upcoming new hot shots straight out the door. It's the Clé de Peau Radiant Fluid Foundation Natural. I have to look at the name every time I look at this foundation because it's just such a jumble of words to try to remember. This is the newest foundation to this top 5, and it is just, it had my heart straight out the gate. The first time I used this, I knew this was going to be a love, which was handy because it's flipping expensive. It is a pricey little madam. How rude. I love this bottle. I think it's just absolutely gorgeous and bougie. And if I'm going to spend £110 on a foundation, it better look pretty swish, let me tell you. I managed to get a really nice shade this time with the Clé de Peau. I haven't been so successful in the past, but the 040 works really beautifully for me now. And I feel like I'll be able to get away with it in the summer as well, just by balancing things out a little. This foundation is absolutely flawless. It's the smoothest, most beautiful airbrushed finish that I've seen. It's not quite as glowy and dewy and luminous and radiant as I would maybe prefer it to be, but it's also certainly not a matte. It says it's a natural finish, and I'd agree with that. It's a radiant natural finish, which is exactly what it says on the bottle, funnily enough, but it does live up to that. It gives you a very full coverage very quickly. So, but you can also use it with a sponge very lightly and get a sheerer coverage if that's your thing. But for me, it just covers everything I want it to very quickly and easily, blends out like a dream, and it wears incredibly well, which is very important for me. All in all, I just find it just looks gorgeous, natural, healthy, flawless, and it stays like that all day, which is, you know, all right by my book. Next up, a foundation that has been around for quite some time, but is a little surprising to lots of people that I love it as much as I do. And this is the Tom Ford Soft Matte Foundation. And the reason it's a surprise is because, yes, it's got the M word in there. That's usually a swear word around these parts, matte. Now, I don't really find this foundation to be matte or super matte, certainly not in the way that when I hear the M word, I immediately reject whatever it is that's got it written on there. But this is definitely a modern, radiant, luminous matte, or a satin even. It's just so natural and beautiful. It has that medium to full coverage. It's very nice and smooth and silky to apply, and it smooths all your texture and wrinkles, and everything just looks like a baby's bum. This I love the most for evenings and events because it has no SPF in it. All the other foundations I'm going to talk to you about today do have some amount of SPF in it. This one doesn't, so it's Mr. Reliable when it comes to evenings out, drinks with the girls, going out for a meal, a wedding, something like that, where there's going to be photography, maybe flash photography, there's going to be lots of lights, maybe it's night, and I don't want a load of reflection reflecting off a very glowy, luminous face because it's going to make me look shiny or even sweaty, God forbid. So this is like my go-to absolute #1 holy grail for those occasions because it just never is going to let me down. I'm never going to look too shiny. It's never going to give me a flashback or a bounce back from a camera lens. It's just going to be like Mr. Reliable. It gazumped the Armani Luminous Silk out of like doing that job for me because I just much prefer this one. It's just very flattering and absolutely beautiful on the skin. Next up, one that has hung around for a long time, and it was kind of a like, then a love, then a like, then a love, and is now firmly cemented itself in the love box. Wait. And this is the Este Lauder Futurist Hydra Rescue. At first I wasn't so sure about this one because it didn't look as good on my forehead as some of these other foundations. I found like it kind of exaggerated my forehead, specifically my forehead lines, like in a way that some of the others didn't. Maybe in a way where some of the others blurred them, this one just let them live their best life. So I didn't love it there, but the rest of my face are just plumped, full, glowy, luminous, smooth, fresh, healthy skin. The perfect amount of like a medium to maybe inching into the full category. Very lightweight and hydrating on the skin. Just very easy to apply because it's a very thin, liquidy consistency, this foundation. But I have found recently I tend to do my foundation after I've done eyes, so I'm lifting up my eyebrows a bit less, which means that product goes less into those lines, and then that helps. And then I'll give it a last final beauty butt stamping across my forehead, and that seems to do the trick as far as stopping it from creasing or just aging me on my forehead. And now it's like solidly in my top drawer. And now for my, I'd say my top 2, but you know, I'm sure about my top #1, but my #2, I'm like, oh, some of these I'm not so sure. So let's say it's possibly my #2. This is the Shiseido Synchro Skin Radiant Lifting Foundation. These names, they always try to catch me out. Now this one fully gazumped, kicked its sister, the Synchro Skin Self Refreshing Foundation, right out of my top drawer, and I was hooked straight away. I've told you before, I'm not loyal when it comes to makeup. As soon as someone bigger and better comes along, I'm like gone. And as soon as I found this one, I knew it was just more for me than the self-refreshing, and the reason being it's just much glowier. This just gives the most gorgeous glow, healthy luminosity to the skin, whereas the Synchro Skin, the self-refreshing, it's a little more satin or natural of a finish. This is definitely a luminous finish, and the brilliant thing about this one is it stays that perfect amount of luminosity, like just before it gets to dewy, it stays there all day. It doesn't move around, it doesn't get shinier and shinier throughout the day. It just stays in the perfect sweet spot, which is what I love about it. It wears very, very well. It's very flattering on my problem muzzle zone, and it's just absolutely gorgeous, natural, healthy skin, like plumped, hydrated, beautiful. I love the smell of it. The shades of the Shiseido foundations just always are just perfect, right on the money for my undertones. I have an olive undertone, so shades can be a real struggle for me, and I can't love a foundation if they don't have the right undertones for me in winter and in summer. This one, Shiseido, they've just nailed their undertones, and this one, it's just so natural and seamless because of that, that it just, every time I wear it, I just want to wear it the next day as well. And now for the number one, the big daddy, the crown jewels in this house. It's the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate foundation. This is it for me. It's my absolute favourite. If you are looking for this but half the price, then I would suggest this Shiseido foundation is about as close as I've come. I still feel like there's something special about this one. They are quite different as far as their consistencies and textures, but if you aren't willing to pay this much for a foundation and you want what this looks like, try this one. I think it's probably as close as I have found. But back to this bad boy. This is just, I've got it on today, and for me it's so healthy and glowy and luminous, and it gives me that medium to full that I love, still with my skin showing through, but it's just like you've just thrown the most gorgeous veil of perfection over the top. Everything is smooth, everything is minimized, everything is filtered and blurred and airbrushed, but with so much luminosity to it that I can even set it with powder and it still just look glowy and beautiful, but without ever looking shiny or sweaty or oily. It just stays perfect, and it wears shockingly well for a foundation with that type of finish. It just stays perfect for a good 9-10 hours without me ever setting it. It feels not only like I'm not wearing foundation, and I've had this on now for like 6 hours, I'd say about 6 hours that I've had this on, and I still feel like, one, I'm not wearing foundation, but I actually feel like I'm wearing a really hydrating moisturizer. I feel hydrated, and it's just an absolute treat. The packaging being like stunning, glorious perfume bottle level doesn't hurt either. Doesn't make it perform any better, but it doesn't hurt on the eye. Definitely has my heart. It does have SPF 50 in it, a really high SPF, so that's something to know. I probably wouldn't wear it on an evening out, just because I feel like you're putting yourself at risk of a flashback Mary moment, I would suggest. But for every other occasion, I live, breathe, love and die for this foundation. It is just the healthiest, most natural, luminosity, youthful, skin-like appearance that I have been able to find to date. So there you have it. Not in a particular order, but this is still top dog currently for me. But like I said, I am a bit of a foundation floozy, and one could come along tomorrow and knock them straight off. And you know what? This one is a cheeky little newcomer, and you just don't know. As I get to know it better, there may be some movement. We can't tell. Only time will tell. Please let me know if you've tried any of these foundations and what your top 5 are currently, if you can manage it. People find it very tricky to do this, but you know, it's my job, so I'm trying my best to pick 5. And for me, right now, I found it quite easy. Looking in my foundation drawer, I was like, I know what the 5 are. It's those 5. I knew straight away, no work, I was sure. Let's see how long these top 5 stay, whether one is gone tomorrow or they're all still here next year. We can only see. We can only wait and see. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I'd love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye.